Whatever world in which you're born, you have to utilize what is there to have any proper context or frame of reference that others can understand. Welcome to day 171 until I am a YouTube millionaire. And I was reviewing some of the videos that I had made 7 or 8 years ago, back in like 2018, right around there when I was in Ohio, when I had just gotten there. And even then, I had changed so much. That was before I had become a professed Christian, before I had followed this faith. And what I mean by you have to operate within the context of the world in which you live is something to this effect. We all are in a sort of suggestion loop. The entire planet being guided down a proscribed path that we are told there is no way to change. It's a script, and there's no way to break the fate. And we have people acting as the evil entities and people acting as the good entities. I always bring up George Soros as a prototypical demon or prototypical parasite. And the stance in which he lives reminds me of one of the characters from the movie Kingdom of Heaven. The movie with Orlando Bloom in it and Edward Norton. But one of the new king's primary servants, after the 16-year-old king that has leprosy passes away, goes and slays some women that were part of Salah ad-Din's family. And he says, I am who I am, someone has to be. Does really somebody have to be? Now, the path that was being tread there was one that was a justifiable crusade in order to save Europe. So in that context, don't misinterpret what I'm saying here. But you are not required to follow a proscribed path. I think I'm using that word properly. And then I also think of the guy in the movie The Martian, the guy that Matt Damon plays. Dr. Mann, I believe is his name, and that's a fitting name. Who, when Matthew McConaughey, Cooper, comes to save him from his planet, along with the other doctor, he says, I really didn't think that I would not have the planet, that my planet wouldn't be the right one. He thought it was just kind of like a written story, a play, and that you weren't just sort of winging it and living life and making your own decisions in your own path. Now, it's a little bit of both, I would tell you. But he was victim of... Oh, it wasn't The Martian, sorry. It wasn't The Martian. It was The Interstellar. I got those movies mixed up. He had main character syndrome. And this led him to fall into his monkey brain mentality, his lizard brain, as it's called, his instinct for survival. And he tried to unalive Matthew McConaughey and steal all of their tools to get off of that planet because he was stuck there. It was all about him. He didn't care the consequences because he thought he was the main character. He also didn't have faith, it seems. I'm not the main character. Nor are you. Not in everybody else's life, that is. But I am the main character in my life. You are the main character in your life. But what does the main character always do, principally, in a heroic tale? It's a tale of self-sacrifice. When Captain America jumped on the grenade in Captain America 1, even though it was a fake grenade, he proved that he was sacrificing himself in order to protect his comrades, his fellow soldiers. And he's the main character of that story. He's the hero. But he was willing to just die if he needed to save everybody else. And at the end of that movie, he, in fact, drives the nuclear weapon carrying aircraft into an iceberg or something, a glacier. He basically gets buried in ice, and he's not found for 90-something years or 60-something years. Main character syndrome means that you think you have to survive when nobody gets out of this life alive. Nobody does. So how are you going to live while you're here? You're going to live purely for yourself, or you're going to live for others, or as almost all human beings, live some combination, somewhere in between. I was under the spell, in some way, though with that little kernel of trying to follow the objective truth, the objective reality, that the rest of the world was under for the decades I've been on this planet. This is why and how my perspectives have shifted so drastically since my time in college to now. I believe what my leadership was trying to show me at the Air Force Academy is in fact who and what I am. But one, it's foreboding to say anything like that, because you're not the main character, and you will not be a false idol. And two, it doesn't hugely matter. The only thing that really matters is the sense of responsibility that comes with it. The weights you have to carry, and whether you are that or not, if you believe you are, and you carry the weight, or you will try to carry the weight that such a person or entity would carry. You might fail, you might succeed, but they'll put it upon your shoulders because you're the best bet that they got. So, I'm not the main character in anybody else's story but my own. We are still, thankfully I think, in the death throes of it, but still in the doldrums of this loop of suggestion, this brainwashing that made us think that the whole of the world had to end in 2012. We're still here, going on 13 years after the fact. Very little has changed since then. Well, I mean, the fact that we're still alive, and all those people who have President Trump derangement syndrome. It's called TDS for short, and they're actually trying to make a psychological syndrome like in the DSM-5 or do studies on it or something that's specifically that. Those are people who are trying to force that suggested path, even though it no longer is where we're going. We would have gone there because we would have willed it into existence. It only takes a handful of people out there to say, no, you don't have to go that way, for it to actually change. And if nothing else, I do want to stand as something like that person. And I was very gung-ho about December 21st, 2012, back in those days. I've changed a lot. I've grown and matured a lot. If you want to just look at my physical body, I'm a lot thicker than I was. A lot thicker. Yeah. Lots change. Lots changed. A lot does change in 10, 15 years. You're not going to remain the same person that you were from 21 to 35. You're going to grow. You're going to mature. Allow that to happen with grace, with steadiness, and humility. That's all I got for today, guys. Love y'all. Peace.